A stream like crystal, it runs down, as plainly may be seen. It's there you'll find the Irish oak, trimmed with the ivy green, where the shamrock rose and the thistle, the lily to beside, all flourish there together, boys, along the Fochan side.
At the present time, it would seem that the world was against the Ulster Protestants.
Some Protestants aren't automatically looking to London for their cultural being. They're examining Ireland.
William III on the white horse as a popular image is really unique to Ireland.
What does a Catholic note sound like? What does a Protestant note sound like? I mean, there just isn't no such thing.
We have Orange men who would consider themselves to be Irish.
I tend to see the north of Ireland as a kind of microcosm and melting pot of the British Isles.
As a Protestant, that's what I am, first and foremost, wherever I am.
Where the shamrock rose and the thistle, the lily to beside, all flourish there together, boys, along the Fochan side.
Who are the Protestants of Ulster? More British than the British, or as Irish as anyone else on this island? In the simplistic distinctions of political conflict, British fights Irish, Protestant fights Catholic, planter fights Gael. We know that the divisions of politics are deep and vicious. How deep are the divisions of culture? We are the people is a popular cry, but a people from where? Once alien here, but now native in their homeland. Descendants of planters from Scotland and England, or the successors of the Cruithan, with roots deeper even than the Gaelic Irish. Today, many Protestants are asking such questions, looking for an identity by challenging old assumptions. The insistence on being British while becoming alienated from the British government has raised both fears about the future and questions about the past. To many, it is no longer enough to be British. Within what is seen as the British family, a new identity is being sought. If you look closely, you can see a great tangle of traditions. Scottish and Irish Gaelic, English and even Welsh influences in language, literature, music and heritage that has produced something unique and distinct. A people of Ulster stock. But the image of Ulster Protestants so often seen is of a bowler-hatted Orangeman marching on the 12th of July. The Orange Order has long expressed the political and religious identity of Protestantism, but does it still fulfill that role?
The Orange Order stands basically for a Protestant philosophy for life. It finds itself in different countries throughout the world, therefore it cannot just simply stand for Britishness. Insofar as there's a sense of our Protestant culture which lies behind the British identity, one might say, yes, it would represent that. But you can be an American citizen, a Togolese citizen, or a Ghanaian citizen, and even a citizen in the Republic of Ireland, and be an Orangeman. We stand first and foremost, historically and today, for our Protestant faith.
If the Orange Order hadn't been here, there would have been a civil war. It has been a calming effect on the Protestants and held them. If it had been the Orange Order, I believe that the trouble, what we're seeing in Yugoslavia, would be nothing compared to what happened here. I believe that the Orange Order has kept a steady hand. And I think the British government knows that too. At the present time, it would seem that the world was against the Ulster Protestants. It has been like that for many, many years. What we have, we hold, and we will stick by it. We'll not let our side down. And as you create, what would you call it, in the army, pride of belonging to, esprit de corps. Well, Protestants sort of way will not let. They always look back and say, well, they done it then, we'll do it now. And that's the way it has been.
It can be an exclusive organisation without demanding that everybody dots the I and crosses the T the way you see it. In other words, we're not going around for forced conversions. There's liberty for people to choose their form of worship and their faith, but we ourselves limit ourselves to those who believe in the Protestant faith, and that does not, even though there's an exclusive aspect in it, it does not say that we are imposing that view upon everybody. Certainly we would argue our position in a political forum, in a social forum, and there are places where I'm sure that I personally have found that I would have things in common with a Muslim, with a Jew, and with even a Roman Catholic on social ethical issues. To be an Irishman certainly involves in being a Protestant, but not in that sense an exclusive person.
I'm not sure that I can define a cultural tradition. There would be separate dimensions, activities, which growing up as a Catholic I would never have touched or maybe even been aware of. And there certainly is activities in the Protestant community that would have a separateness about them, but I'd say it would be a tiny proportion of the overall social, political and cultural life that they lead. Well, I'm led to believe that there's an enormous amount of emphasis, or at least time spent by a lot of Protestant kids in things like Sunday schools and Pentecostal cabins at the end of street corners, where fire and brimstone was preached like from an early age, and very often young Protestants were exposed to this, which also in many cases was downright sectarian. And those would be some of the things. The whole notion of regularly, every year, expressing yourself politically through a march, i.e. the 12th of July and so on, is also something that Catholics wouldn't have grown up with, other than at election times, and those people who would have had a Republican background, which of course in the 50s and 60s when I grew up was a very tiny proportion of people in the district that I lived in Northern Ireland generally. But on the other hand, Protestants were continuously and regularly expressed themselves politically through the Orange Order, and that would have been something that I would have thought would have been different from my upbringing.
12th of July has always been a family day out. Obviously there are many connotations about the Orange institution and its parades, particularly on the 12th. There is a religious significance. To a degree there is a political significance that has crept in over this last number of years, but essentially most of us who take part in the parades see them as a cultural expression. We see them as a day out.
Well, I would be the happiest man in the world if it ever became that, or if it ever was that. I don't see any reason why in the future that it couldn't become that. Unfortunately, because of the continual political instability and lack of a secure political framework in which the people in this island and islands actually live, the Orange Order expresses, I think, something more than that. I think the 12th of July marches are something more than that. I think they do express a political dimension to the Protestant notion of living in Northern Ireland. And I think that if the Orange Order, if someone in the Orange Order truly believed that it was a cultural and festival occasion, I do know that Catholics don't perceive it as such, and Catholics perceive it largely as a Protestant supremacy march or a celebrationary march of their supremacy over Catholics.
I don't like the derogatory term, kick the Pope bans. We actually use the term blood and thunder. Both terms have been used to describe an enthusiasm and exuberance that is reflected in the way particularly the drums are played, but in the loudness of the music and probably the swagger of the musicians themselves. There is an enthusiasm there, there is a loudness there, but we don't really see it as being intimidatory. It is enjoyment. Music means different things to different people, but hopefully everyone gets enjoyment from playing or listening to music. And if some of these younger lads in the bands prefer to play the instruments loudly, I personally, as a concert flautist, may not agree with that type of music, but so be it, it's their taste. As long as their intention is not to annoy anyone, and I don't really think it is, that's fine by me.
Well, I think, you know, some of these drum band tunes existed before King Billy. And I think any kind of an army has to march. So obviously it would have selected out of the tradition the march and the military music that it wanted to use, and it would have left the rest. And this, in fact, is what's happened, because there are Gaelic words to the sash, which I have actually heard, and Cardinal O'Feoch in Armagh always entertained us with the old orange flute in Irish, sometimes if you'd be invited up to his place for dinner. So really, I think that these things have existed a long time before. Now, that doesn't preclude the fact that many new tunes have been composed. I mean, I'm sure Dolly's Bray was an original folk tune. And of course, it was left to somebody to put some vulgar words to it.
I don't think it's possible to sort of define what is a Catholic or what is a Protestant song within the Ulster folk tradition idiom. I think the nice thing about the Ulster folk song tradition is that it is a mixture of Scottish, it's a mixture of Irish, and it's a mixture of English. So it makes it a very rich kind of collection of styles, which makes it very different from an Irish song, specifically an Irish song or a Sean-O song, which is a very specialised, a very highly ornamented style of singing, whereas an Ulster song at its most basic is a very direct style of singing, and it's sung in a very a marching rhythm, what's known in musical terms as 4/4 time. That in essence is an Ulster folk song.
So the Ulster folk song is a thing in itself?
Very much so, yes. And it's not until probably the 70s or the 80s when singers like Len Graham started, I suppose, spreading the word or spreading the music of Ulster song that this has become recognised as a very special style and very individual to the north of Ireland. Certainly nothing like it south of the border at all. So to actually say an Ulster folk song means a very specific thing, and it's very much a melting pot of a style.
I can't begin to think of a reason why, but I've always been told if you have Presbyterian blood crossed with Ulster stock, you will get a non-musician. And I also noticed in the music festivals in former years, always it was the Catholic choir that won, and most of the times it was the Catholic soloist who won the festival, and indeed they did show more genuine musical feeling than some of the toughies that might have been thought to have been Protestant. So I don't know why that is, but it's a strange thing. I think there's a certain type of aristocratic Presbyterian who really is a very cultivated person. Now when we talk about, I was told in an aeroplane once, I hear you've just recorded Carrickfergus. Why are you playing Catholic music, was what I said. Catholic music? I never thought of Carrickfergus as being Catholic music in my life. But indeed, its original words are in Irish. I don't know whether that means it has to be Catholic or not. But it was a very austere song in Irish, and it eventually became a love song also in Irish, and it stayed that way in its ballad form today. And so I didn't know what to say. I mean, the Presbyterian aristocrat was as much a patron of the arts as, say, the Church of Ireland one, or the Catholic Gaelic aristocrat. And so there's really no reason why the Presbyterians should now have an image of being not so musical.